Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. Today is Tuesday, October 1st, and we're glad you're here to join us either in person or watching on YouTube. We'll begin this meeting with a call to order and an invocation by Pastor Jeff Barnes of Friends Church.
You'll stand. Father God, we thank you so much for the opportunity to be here tonight. We thank you that we're gathered here to do some business for the city. We thank you, Lord, for the aldermen and all those who are present, who are invested in this, for the community who has the privilege of coming out to share in this opportunity. Lord, we want to take a special opportunity right now to lift up our firefighters, our police officers, anybody who works in the city, those who are traveling to the west to help in that situation. Lord, we want to pray for all of those people who are affected by this hurricane in whatever state they may be. Lord, they need your strength and encouragement. They need our help. And so, Lord, we pray that you'll touch our hearts, lean into us closely, and let us know how we might be of service or how we might contribute to help. Lord, our hearts are heavy for all of these folks and these families and the linemen and all the people that are going up for the safety, the first responders. Lord, they need you. We pray, Lord, that you're present with them in everything they do. We thank you again, Lord, for the opportunity to be here tonight. I pray your blessing over this effort. In Jesus' precious name, amen.
Thank you, Pastor Barnes. Please join me now in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. So one of the wonderful things we can do as a community is come together to recognize people who've been key in our community and making things happen, and also we can raise awareness about important issues. One important issue is fire prevention, and so this month we are celebrating. Well, we're celebrating two different things, but we'll start with the Fire Prevention Month and of October. And there's a lot of school visits, a lot of preschool visits, and a lot that goes on for Fire Prevention Month and throughout the year. So if your school or preschool or community organization you're involved with or your church wants to contact the fire department to have a special program or a visit or a tour of the fire station or any of that, you can contact the fire department all year long, and there's some online forms you can use to do that. It's not just during this month. Of special interest is Fire Prevention Week, which is a national observance, and this year the topic is smoke alarms, make them work for you. There's a lot of good information about it online, and we have some on our website, but we're going to have our Chris Kaufman and Austin Flint accept it for the town, and perhaps also our fire chief, Scott Aldermen. So, as mayor of Kernersville, this worked when we practiced. As mayor of Kernersville, it's my honor and privilege to declare, I think it is the 16th, nope, the 6th, October 6th through 12th as Fire Prevention Week in the town of Kernersville in connection with the celebration and observance nationwide. And Chris will tell us more about it.
Well, thank you, Mayor. We do appreciate you guys recognizing Fire Prevention Week and this year's theme of smoke alarms, make them work for you. The Kernersville Fire Rescue Department is dedicated in spreading this message along with other fire prevention messages to the public. We kicked off our efforts today at Caleb's Creek Elementary, teaching over 95 kindergarten students about fire prevention and smoke alarms. We're going to continue our efforts throughout the month of October with our educational programs. They're going to span from preschools, schools, community centers, businesses, and local events. As a department, it's our goal to make sure that the community is aware of the importance of smoke alarms and fire prevention measures, as these are keys to reducing injuries and fatalities in the events of a fire. Thank you.
Did y'all have anything to add? Okay. And I also do do want to thank you and the department here for the willingness to help in natural disasters. We've helped in the east with flooding events in the past, and we're making plans to help in the western part of the state as well, and we do appreciate that. And our thoughts and prayers go with the members of our department traveling and helping in these areas, and also with everyone who's here back in Kernersville who may be covering a little bit more helping with other municipalities as they've sent teams as well, and a little more work within the town of Kernersville. What people may not realize is that, I guess if you stand one spot, it works. Okay, so what people may not realize is we really are an all hazards department. So it's not just fire response anymore. It's hazardous materials, it's entrapments, it's rescues, it's all kinds of things that maybe just doesn't fit in another category. And they call on the fire rescue department is the first responder. So working closely with Okay, we'll do it the old-fashioned way. Working closely with our public services department and our police department, when the call is made, we try and be there to help. And we have agreements with basically all of the fire departments in Guilford County and in Forsyth County for mutual assistance. So we try and get the closest fire engine there in times of need. Many of you may have realized when there's been a medical call that affects your family that a fire engine comes along with the ambulance, and if they arrive there first, they start administering care. So it's you never know if that call for a heart attack is within an area that's inaccessible for the paramedics to get the person out. So the firefighters are there to assist, and we really genuinely appreciate you all. This month, the Fire Prevention Week and throughout the year. So thank you for your service. If you want to shake everyone's hand, feel free. All right, our next recognition is Community Planning Month. We have had our own planning board for a very long time, largely because of Margaret Burks, who is serving on the planning board, who helped set up the system we have for our land use and zoning in Kernersville. And so we appreciate her service, especially on the planning board, for being actually sometimes known as the mother of planning in Kernersville, because she helped set it all up for us. But as you all know, Catherine Garner is our Community Development Director. Brad Rentz is our Senior Planner. Liam Bowman is our GIS Planner. Jordan Caudle is our Planner too. And Beth Price, who I don't think is here, is the Deputy Clerk who helps with the minutes and record keeping for that. And all of them will come forward, as well as we're going to recognize the members of our Kernersville Planning Board who are here tonight. Jim Friedenberg, who's the chair, Tom McDaniel, the vice chair, Margaret Burks, Nathan Meyer, who I haven't seen if he's here, Jeff Jordan, Scott Stapp, Lou Ann Davis, Michael Enscore, Steve Hutchins, and Chris Oakman. So when we've got a small gift for the planning board members just to show our appreciation. But because of the microphone having a little difficulty, I think I'll go ahead and just talk about community development efforts here, and then we'll come forward and I'll present this to Catherine. Change is constant, we know this, and natural disasters, storm recovery, and all that even highlight how much change we've had. But even in normal times, it affects all cities, towns, counties, and rural areas. and planners help navigate this change with data-driven insights and expertise that provide better choices for how people work and live. And I think in Kernersville, you really see that with communication across the state and participation in national planning conferences to really get the cutting edge information that we need for our community, to see what ideas others are implementing, and to test ideas that we have to improve. There's been a lot of changes in the information we have on our website relating to planning that citizens can access about new developments and answering questions. And as we update our website in the future, we hope to make that information even more easily accessible. But community planning efforts are most beneficial when elected officials and citizen planning board members understand, support, and demand excellence in planning. And community planning efforts provide an opportunity for all residents to be meaningfully involved in making choices that determine the future of their community. There's a designation now nationally for October as the National Community Planning Month. And again, like the fire department, really we're doing community planning throughout the year. Especially appropriate to recognize it with tonight with the agenda including plans to do a comprehensive community plan in the future for our community. But we really appreciate the contributions of our Community Development Director, Catherine Garner, our staff is here tonight, and above all, our planning board members, because you're there listening to the citizens, their concerns, their complaints, their ideas, and I was talking with Michael earlier today about the planning board meetings really being unpredictable in the concerns you're going to hear. And sometimes the smallest thing that can be changed in a plan makes it better for the people who live nearby and also sometimes better for the entire community. So that is the place where the planning board public hearing is the public hearing that gets it all kind of started and fixes a lot of problems. And oftentimes, over the recent history in Kernersville, I think the plan that's presented to the Board of Aldermen is very different and very much improved because of the effort, dedication of the planning board members. If you've not served on the planning board, you may not realize frequently the planning board members will go maybe even multiple times to visit a location, walk the land. You know, sometimes you get chased away by a barking dog. Sometimes it's inaccessible for various reasons because the site is actually, 300 feet from the nearest road. But, with all this, they really take the time to see what this looks like on the ground and envision how this would fit in with our community and put compatible uses near each other and really develop with an eye to what is there on the ground and what's been planned for and not yet built, and to really see the future for our community. So all these efforts are appreciated, and we wanted to recognize them for their involvement. So Catherine and staff and planning board members, if you could come up. And Mr. Friedenberg. Frequently, I apologize to Jim because when he was appointed to the planning board, his first meeting had 3 news cameras and standing room only about a very controversial issue in the community. But yet he stayed with us, so maybe thanks to your leadership, things have calmed down a little bit.
Maybe.
Do you have anything to say?
Just want to thank the town and thank the mayor for this recognition and thank my fellow board members for all the work that they do on this board. So thanks, folks.
Thank you. And Catherine is going to hand out a small... Oh, Catherine's going to take a group picture.
Thank you for all the hard work. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Thank you for all the hard work. Thank you. Appreciate your efforts. Thank you. Thank you so very much.
All right, that is the end of our ceremonial agenda this evening. If you're here just for one of the items on the ceremonial agenda, we will not be offended at all if you take this opportunity to leave and go enjoy your evening, but you are welcome to stay, or you're welcome to leave and watch us on the YouTube channel if you want, but again, this is the end of our ceremonial part of our agenda. All right, so we will go into the public hearings, but first we need to consider, there's been a request to change the order of the agenda to move one of the public hearings, item B and item C, to flip them and consider item C before we consider item B. They're related because it relates to off-street parking that affects the rezoning of item B. So if I could have a motion to amend the agenda so the public hearings are item A first, item C second, and item B third.
So moved.
Okay, I've got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson. I've got a second by Alderman Apple. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right, so these are all public hearings. We have the policy for a public hearing printed on your agenda. It's now displayed on the screen. When an agenda item is denoted as a public hearing, persons attended shall be permitted to address the Board of Aldermen regarding the item under consideration, those in favor speaking first, those against speaking second. Proponents and opponents shall each be given 20 minutes of time to speak and may choose to allow one speaker to utilize that time or allocate the time amongst different speakers. The mayor can divide the time if necessary. After the opponents speak, the proponents are allowed 5 minutes for rebuttal. If the proponents choose to exercise this option, the opponents also have 5 minutes. In the event the proponents do not present a rebuttal, the opponents shall be given no further time to speak. So we're here at item 1A, public hearing rezoning Billy Parish agent for owners. This is land located at Greto's Way Court and Hampton Plaza Drive, rezoning from highway business special to highway business conditional, a total of 2.46 plus or minus acres. The PIN as listed on the agenda and in the zoning case, zoning docket K 547A7, with requested uses, building contractors, general. So we'll be looking at the rezoning and the site plan. Ms. Garner, do you have a presentation?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Let me get back to the beginning of this. Our first rezoning tonight is K547A7 for two triad power and controls. This is a single-phase conditional rezoning with petitioner Billy Parrish for owners Sloan Allred 2 LLC. The current zoning, this is within Stafford Center, and it's zoned Highway Business Special, and the requested zoning is an update to Highway Business Conditional to change the use on the site. So the site is just shy of 2.5 acres. Some zoning history on this site is that, like I mentioned, it was part of the Stafford Center rezoning in 2000, and it was, the original rezoning was for 46.11 acres. The Stafford Center development is broken up into several areas on their site plan, noted A, B, C, and D. Areas A, B, and C were assigned highway business-based zoning, and Area D was assigned limited industrial-based zoning. The property in question tonight is part of Area C, which was assigned uses that trended towards office and service-type uses. So the applicant's proposed use is building contractors general, which is an establishment providing general contracting and/or building construction services for residential, farm, industrial, or commercial uses, and what typically does not involve outdoor storage of machinery or equipment. The site is located east of the intersection of Credis Way and Hampton Plaza Drive. Properties around it are zoned Highway Business Conditional and Highway Business Special, Limited Industrial, and RS12 to the east. They're at the end of Haynes Street. There is no connection to Haynes Street proposed with this rezoning. The site plan that the applicant has submitted shows one building that's just over 10,000 square feet. They'll have the sidewalk connection from the front door to the existing sidewalk in the right-of-way, and a 40-foot type 3 buffer yard is being provided along the shared property boundary with those residential properties at the east at the end of Haynes Street. They're proposing a 10-foot street yard along Hampton Plaza Drive, and then in keeping with the original Stafford Center rezonings, they are following the architectural conditions that were adopted as part of that rezoning. So brick and/or stucco on the elevations, and the use of textured block and stone as accents. The land use plan for this area is for industrial, which is providing areas for manufacturing, distribution, office, and business service provider uses. We find that the development meets the goals of the land use plan as a business service provider. This was heard at the September Planning Board meeting. The Planning Board and staff recommendation is to approve the rezoning. In the case K547A7 from Highway Business Special to Highway Business Conditional, finding the rezoning to be consistent with the comprehensive plan and being both reasonable and in the public interest because of the following. The requested use complies with the original rezoning's vision of service, office, and commercial uses along the east of Hampton Plaza Drive to balance and support the industrial uses on the western side of Hampton Plaza Drive. The site plan and building elevations are consistent with the rest of the Stafford Center development, and the proposed zoning is in conformance with the land use plan. Planning Board and staff also recommend approval of the site plan and the conditions as presented in the staff report. The Planning Board vote at the September meeting was all members present voting in favor. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, are there any questions of Catherine at this time?
Catherine, could you do me a favor? Could you refresh your computer? Because I have taken the ordinance with the site plan and the previous conditions and broken that out into a separate document, and it's not showing on yours. But if you refresh it, it will.
Refresh what?
That right there.
The agenda?
Yes, if you refresh it, there it is. Okay, there it is. Thank you.
Okay, this is a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open. Keith, have we received any speaker cards?
I have not.
Okay, is there anyone here to speak in favor? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Are there any Questions of Catherine? All right, do I have a motion?
A motion to approve.
Catherine, do we need it to be more detailed than that?
If you'd like to make the motion as recommended by planning board and staff, then we could incorporate this language.
Motion to approve as proposed by staff.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Second was by Mr. Apple. The motion was by Mr. Thompson. All right, perfect. All right, now we are going to item C, which is public hearing on a text amendment. Keith, I'm not sure you had stepped out. We took a vote to rearrange the agenda.
Yes, that will now be, the text amendment will be first, correct?
Yes, so will you renumber it to B then for the final?
I can
Since we
do that,
voted
yes.
to do that? Okay. All right, so our new item B is the public hearing on a text amendment, zoning docket KT 280. All amendments to text amendment from our formal rules are brought by our town manager, which is Curtis Swisher. So Curtis Swisher, agent for the town of Kernersville, requests a text amendment to section 65.2 of the UDO regarding off-street parking standards for properties located in downtown Kernersville, zoning docket KT 280. And this has been of interest for the Board of Aldermen. Our elected officials would like, to have more flexibility in the downtown parking. So we've asked the staff to research it, and now we are here with this text amendment. So Catherine, if you could go ahead with your presentation.
KT 280, as you are aware, is about parking in downtown. The UDO governs off-street parking requirements for all uses within the town of Kernersville. It's one of the largest sections that we have. And I do have a small clerical correction about the section of the UDO. It's section 6.5.2. So if you'll make that change, that'd be super helpful. Table 5.2 in particular, out of this whole section, sets the requirements based on use type. So, for instance, this building as a government office would require one parking space per 300 square feet of gross floor area. So all of the uses that we recognize as uses then have a corresponding parking ratio based on their square footage in that table. Properties within the central historic core of Kernersville have been stymied by this requirement, which you have experienced either as a business owner, as a business patron, as a visitor to downtown in general, or through calls from citizens. So we have looked at this because some buildings encompass the entire parcel and they have no room to provide off-street parking, even if they wanted to. And some buildings might not encompass the entire parcel, yet they still don't have enough space to meet the full requirements of Table 5.2. Now, there are some exemptions for properties that are zoned central business and located within 500 feet of a public parking lot. And yet not every property within this core downtown area are either zoned central business or within 500 feet of a public parking lot. So we debated a lot of pros and cons about, do we propose a rezoning to central business, but then there are many businesses and parcels that are zoned general business, and central business would reduce some of their uses and their opportunities. So we decided that probably wasn't the best way to go. And it still wouldn't affect the 500-foot distance. Then we looked at provisions for shared parking agreements, which we do have, but meeting these requirements for shared parking arrangements have also been difficult for business owners to accomplish. They've also been difficult for staff to regulate. So that wasn't really the answer either. Off-street parking requirements do have their purpose, and yet meeting these requirements in a historic downtown can be difficult, if not impossible. So we reached out to other municipalities in North Carolina through the planners listserv, and we did the whole phone a friend from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And we said, what do you do and what have you done and how did it work? So we heard from Butner, Morganton, Spindale, High Point, Roxborough, Lenore, Greensboro, Gastonia, and several former public sector planners on how their communities deal with it and how they've seen that work or not work. So from that, we sat down and we came up with a proposal that has 4 aspects. The downtown core is defined. We wanted to separate it from the Central Kernersville Overlay District as it only applies to off-street parking requirements. The Central Kernersville Overlay District requirements will still be in effect. They encompass more than just parking. So there are other standards that apply to that, and the area that the Central Kernersville applies to is much larger than the area that's dealing with parking, a parking dilemma. So we separated that out. We identified when the requirements would come into play. We decided how we would treat existing buildings, and so we divided that by buildings that encompass an entire lot, those that do not encompass an entire lot, and what happens if spaces are removed. And then we covered additions, new construction, or redevelopment of sites. So the first aspect was defining what is parking within the downtown core. So it applies to all parcels of land fronting on Main and Cherry Streets from Oakhurst Street to Railroad Street, any parcels of land between Main and Cherry Streets from Oakhurst Street to Railroad Street, and any parcels between North Main Street and Beard Street bounded by East Mountain Street and Railroad Street. So this is picking up everybody on Main and Cherry from Oakhurst to the railroad tracks, the parcels that are in between Main and Cherry, so the small stretch of West Mountain between Cherry and Main, and then some of the area between Beard Street and Main Street. These are the areas that out of all of the downtown, the building takes up nearly the entire lot or the entire lot, and most of the parcels to the east already have large parking lots. So we decided they weren't struggling as much as the truly historic core was that was developed long before we had automobiles. These parking standards will apply with the next change of use, either of the full building or an individual tenant space, following the adoption of this ordinance, if that's what you choose. And any parking to be provided shall meet the minimum dimensional standards of the section and any required landscaping standards. Upon completion of the work, no further conformance shall be required unless or until the Unified Development Ordinance is modified or parking lot and space modifications are needed to match the North Carolina Building Code. The Building Code is where the handicap standards live, and so we wanted to leave that open in case handicap standards change at some point in the future, but we wanted to make it clear that once someone complies, until a regulation changes, their compliance is considered complete. So for existing buildings, they've been divided into 2 types. Buildings with envelopes that encompass the entire lot. Off-street parking is not required. You can't provide off-street parking if your building takes up your entire lot. For buildings with envelopes that do not encompass the entire lot, the off-street parking provided must meet the dimensional standards of this section. However, there is no minimum or maximum number of required spaces. I often fall into the camp that there's not a parking problem, there's a walking problem, but in Kernersville, there is a parking problem. There is a shortage of spaces. And so the town has several parking lots we've added on to a public parking lot, and that still wouldn't be enough. And so we want any space, any building that could offer 1 or 2 more spaces, that's 1 or 2 more spaces to contribute for their patrons, for their staff, and will contribute to the net total of parking spaces that we provide downtown. With removal of spaces, we wanted to make sure that buildings had an opportunity or businesses had an opportunity to expand slightly if they wanted to. So the number of parking spaces existing or provided under this provision shall not be reduced by 25% or more for any reason. Once you've provided them, you can reduce them, but not by much, because every amount of parking is precious. But we wanted to have a threshold of an expansion, an allowable expansion, before we started looking at either redevelopment of the site or needing to talk about options because we didn't want spaces to be cannibalized after they've been provided. For additions and new construction, the standards are a little bit more stringent. So additions to existing buildings, an existing building may expand up to 25% of its building footprint, but may not reduce available parking by more than 25%. Any expansion of an existing building beyond 25% of the existing building footprint shall be considered new construction or redevelopment. We wanted to have a threshold of at what point was it a small addition or what point were we redeveloping the building, given that these are often pretty small lots. So with new construction or redevelopment, all new structures within the downtown core shall comply with the standards of this section with a 50% reduction of the minimum requirements per use as defined in table 5.2. And once constructed, these parking spaces shall not be removed. So we've got some vacant parcels, especially on North Cherry Street. So if someone were to come in and let's say their use were to require 20 spaces by that chart, anywhere else in town, they'd have 20 spaces. Here, they'd only have to provide 10. The idea was if you're building from scratch, you have a better opportunity to anticipate and provide that parking that your use is going to need, whereas buildings that were built at the turn of the century, that ship has left the port. So we wanted to, again, distinguish between an addition and building redevelopment and site redevelopment, and then also anticipate additional new construction that may occur in our downtown, because that would be beneficial to our downtown as well. This is supported in the comprehensive plan, both the landscaping and then keeping downtown as a walkable downtown, enhancing Kernersville's small town atmosphere and improving the natural environment are identified goals in the comprehensive plan. This is a pretty big change, and so we wanted to have an opportunity for affected citizens or friends of downtown to ask questions about this and hear about it from us. On August 21st, the town held a public information meeting at the Senior Botanical Gardens for downtown stakeholders. Notice of this meeting was sent by mail to property owners. We covered other things while we had a captive audience. We talked about applying for building permits, requesting inspections, and use and occupancy permits. So we covered a lot of ground, but we did give a long presentation about the parking. And we sent copies of the presentation to 17 different individuals or organizations as part of that outreach following the meeting. This was also heard at the September Planning Board meeting. Planning Board and staff recommend approval of the ordinance as submitted by staff. And of the members present, all voted in favor of the text amendment. So I'd be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Garner. Are there questions of Ms. Garner at this time?
Catherine, would you go back to 3, sub-number 1, right there?
Mm-hmm.
That first sentence, is there an extra negative in there?
There may be.
And it may not reduce allowable available parking by no more than 25%. It seems like to me either the not or the no need to go, because I think
I think it's the no.
Yeah, don't think it says what you meant. I know
Yep.
what you meant. But
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So would staff recommendation include changing that at this point in time? Okay.
And Mayor, I would just like to add, for the meeting that Catherine referenced at the Botanical Garden, I think that probably all of the property owners that were present from downtown, they were very much in support of this new change, because as Catherine alluded to earlier, this has been a big topic of discussion since last year, really, with some new businesses coming into downtown that, they were having difficulty meeting the parking requirements. And so that was kind of the driving force behind this, and it received support of everyone, I think, that was there at the garden that night. So really thank Catherine and her staff for coming up with these options, and I think it'll make it a lot easier for new folks coming into downtown that might come in with a different use that needs more parking spaces than what's available currently.
Catherine, at one point, and just in the brainstorming process, we had an applicant for a new use of an existing building downtown on Main Street that was having trouble providing the required parking under the old scheme. And one of the solutions that was just brainstormed was having them enter into a 10-year lease with another property owner. And that, of course, that everybody involved, I think, felt like that was not something they would do. That was not practical. Does this address that type of situation so we don't have to have that unreasonable requirement there?
Yes, the parking alternatives and incentives section is currently where there is information about entering into the long-term lease, and that's part of what's been difficult for property owners to do, both in terms of giving that to someone else, but then also committing to that as a potential new business. So this would replace that for downtown. It would still, that alternatives and incentives section would still be in effect in case somebody else needed it across town. But for the downtown businesses, this would be the prevailing section. And Keith, I'm so sorry, it's section 5.5.2. I'm pretty sure, not 6.5.2. I think section 6 is, you might want to check me on the online UDO. But yes, this would replace the requirement or the need to enter into any sort of formalized agreement and having to worry about offsetting hours and how close is the parking to the use where it's going to be, or the location where it's going to be located. This would be the prevailing section. If you have it and can provide it, great, it's enough. If you don't have it because your building takes up your entire lot, great, that's okay too.
We've added a dose of practicality to the downtown area that we didn't have before.
We've tried to come up with something that would make sense and not be excessively onerous on anybody.
Okay, thank you.
So let me ask at this point, with the typo on the agenda, can we still have the public hearing and vote on this tonight? Because I note for the record that all of the documents, the staff report, and all of the attachments reference the correct provision, and also the description in the agenda references the correct, I guess if you did a word search of our UDO, and if you were familiar with it, the text in the agenda item is correct as to what issue we're considering.
I don't think it's going to be big enough of a typo to matter. So yes, I would say you could have the public hearing and vote on it if the board chooses to. And we'll just make the correction before we finalize it and put it in the UDO.
Okay, perfect. All right, this is a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to the board in favor of this text amendment? Seeing none, is there anyone here in opposition? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. All right, are there further questions, discussion, or are you ready to vote?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to thank Curtis and Catherine for working on this, because people have been grumbling about this for a year or more, and we always come in with a different story. And I think y'all took every bit of it and did what government's supposed to do, and that's supposed to help the citizens and the businesses. And thank you for making this happen. And I'd make a motion.
Okay, make a motion to adopt this as our parking standards as recommended by our staff and planning board. Second. Got a motion by Alderman Barrow, second by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you again. Your staff is left, but that's good. They have to come into work tomorrow. Thank you, Ms. Garner, for your work and the staff's work and the extensive research that you put into this, because it would have been easy to do something quicker that was less comprehensive than this, but I think that your comprehensive solution of studying each type of issue we were running into downtown solves the problems that Mr. Apple referred to, that if you enact an ordinance too quickly in response to just one situation, there's many other situations that could be fixed with a more comprehensive review. And to have that opportunity for the public input at Senior Gardens in that setting, and to have a lack of complaint here tonight. I do believe that Mr. Swisher, the merchants who and property owners who came to Senior Gardens continued to be happy with the proposed solution. So, so very good work by the staff. Thank you, Curtis, for your efforts, and Ms. Garner and your staff. And I appreciate all of the folks from other jurisdictions who took the time to read what you had proposed and to think about the contingencies and whether this would address all of the problems we were concerned about. So thank you for your good work. Is there anything else we need to do on this? All right, let's move on to what used to be item B and is now item C, which is a public hearing on rezoning. Jason Grubbs, agent for owners, requesting a general rezoning from GI to CB for property located southeast of the intersection of North Main and Railroad, containing a total of 0.25 plus or minus acres, with the PIN numbers listed on the agenda and in the report. Zoning docket K821. Ms. Garner?
Madam Mayor, this last rezoning tonight is a general rezoning that is downtown. And so I think there was some vested interest in how the parking was going to turn out for the rezoning. But this is at 234 North Main Street on the east side of North Main Street. The petitioner is Carol Wicker, Michael Grubbs, and Jason Grubbs, trustees for the property owner. The requested zoning amendment is from general industrial to central business, and all central business uses will apply as a general rezoning, and the site is on 1/4 acre. The property is surrounded by properties that are zoned general business, pedestrian business, and general business, and they are requesting central business, which is just down the block. The land use plan identifies this area as mixed use and downtown. Mixed use was established to accommodate a variety of uses, which may range from residential, commercial, office, and industrial uses. And the downtown area is intended to support the traditional mixture of uses that have existed downtown, but also promote growth and change. The central business district is intended for application in the town of Kernersville. The district is established to encourage high-intensity, compact urban development. It is intended to accommodate a wide range of uses, including office, retail, service, and institutional developments in a pedestrian-oriented setting. The district also accommodates high-density residential development, and the uses may be located mixed on the same tract or within the same structure, which is the case with the existing tenants and businesses in this building on the site. It is considered a downzoning, going from general industrial to central business, but central business was applicable because of the mix of uses that apply to those existing business tenants, and then also best suit the downtown area. It is in conformance with the requirements set in the UDO as well. Being an existing building, we didn't want to create a nonconformity by rezoning the property, and it is also in conformance with the land use plan. So the central business zoning district provides very little dimensional standards, so that's where we wouldn't be creating a nonconformity with a setback. The uses allowed in the central business zoning district are more consistent with the surrounding areas as compared to general industrial, which helps us maintain a cohesive commercial network in our downtown area. And central business zoning district is appropriate within the mixed use land use designation in the land use plan. This was heard at the September Planning Board meeting as well. Planning Board and staff recommend approving the rezoning for the property in case K821 from general industrial to central business, finding the rezoning is consistent with the comprehensive plan and is both reasonable and in the public interest because the request to rezone to the central business zoning district is consistent with the land use plan. The uses allowed within the central business zoning district match current uses on the property and in the surrounding area. And as this property is located in central Kernersville, it does promote high-intensity, compact urban development, and it complies with the intent of the central business zoning district. And as with the cases previously, all those members present at the September Planning Board meeting voted in favor. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions, Ms. Garner, at this time?
Catherine, I think I know which building this is from looking at it earlier, but includes the building where Arnold King had his office in the back of that building.
Probably, it's the one with the deli downstairs.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Jason, is the building that Mr. Apple's talking about next to this building? You just answer that question. This is the deli and then the business upstairs, the photography, Adams Lane. So it's a separate building and there's a little like parking lot area. In the building, Arnold King's office was, Rotary met in, is next door, and it used to have the card shop on the front. So, thank you, Mr. Grubbs. All right. Any more questions of staff at this point? Mark, can you put the map up so Bill can see? I don't know if you can zoom in. You see how it's the one that's got the red outline? So the one you're thinking of has that sharp angle and the mural painted on it? Yes. It's right along Railroad and right along Main. Okay. All right, good to know. Make sure we're all on the same pin on the map as we start.
I thought I could tell on the map.
Well, they're right there, both in pink, so this was a good question. All right. If there's no further questions at this time, this is a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open. Mr. Grubbs, did you want to speak as a proponent?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board. My name is Jason Grubbs. I'm an attorney with Coltrane Grubbs. I'm the attorney for the petitioner as well as one of the trustees of the trust that owns the property in question. My address is 109 East Mountain Street, Suite C, Kernersville 27284. Before I begin my remarks about the rezoning, I just want to thank the board for its consideration of the UDO amendment. That's certainly a step in the right direction for development downtown, and I appreciate you taking a practical approach to that as well as staff, both as a downtown business owner as well as an attorney for piece of property that is going to be affected by this. This piece of property is a textbook example of the problem you were trying to solve. For some reason, it's currently zoned general industrial. It's always been zoned that, to our knowledge. I suspect that's because of its proximity to the Hooker Furniture Factory. And when it was rezoned, this building didn't go along with it, so it remained general industrial. Obviously, the uses over time have not been industrial in nature at all. And so when we looked with staff at rezoning, it's just slightly too narrow a lot to be GB. And we started looking at CB, and the parking became an issue. The 500-foot radius to a public parking lot, we're 519 feet, I believe, was the way GIS showed it to me. So just outside of that, well, there's maybe some public parking over at the depot, but the UDO has a provision that says you can't cross a railroad right away to get to your public parking. So every way we went, we were kind of stuck here. And so in working with staff, they recommended CB, and I appreciate the consideration of moving this case to after your consideration of the UDO. As Ms. Garner alluded, we certainly had a vested interest in not wanting to move forward with this without the amendment of the UDO. I'm glad to answer any questions. I think this does fit with what's going on downtown. It's appropriate under the town's land use plans, and appreciate, again, the staff's consideration of this and assistance with it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Grubbs. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Seeing none, is there anyone here in opposition? Is there anyone here with questions? All right, having heard from everyone, I'll declare the public hearing closed.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the planning board and staff recommendation for case K-821 to amend the zoning ordinance of the town by rezoning the property in K-821 from general industrial to central business.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion to amend the zoning ordinance as stated by Alderman Apple, second by Alderman Gorham. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right, that ends our public hearings, and we are now to the public session. I have a question about the order of the agenda. Lisa, are you in a time crunch tonight, or you're okay? Okay. I'd like to ask, Milt Rhodes wanted to also be here when we talked about the sign, which is currently on item H. I wanted to ask if the board was willing to amend the public session, unless I can't do it again. Can we amend the agenda more than once? Okay. Ed was whispering to you, so I wanted to double check. Our town attorney, I was concerned he was anticipating what I was about to say. So I would like to amend the agenda in the public session to have first as A, speakers from the floor, and then item H would move, and then we'll renumber it for the minutes, to move discussion regarding an entrance sign on Highway 66 South up to between speakers from the floor and the presentation by Harvest Hubs Short Street. If I could have a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson,
Second.
second by Alderman Gorham. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right. We have the public session with speakers from the floor. I don't have anyone signed up, but I understand, Milt, you had wanted to speak. Since I don't have a speaker card from you, you'll have to restate your name and address for Keith.
Milt Rhodes, 412 North Marshall Street, Winston-Salem. Thanks for letting me come up, and thanks for adjusting the agenda a little bit. Tonight, I really just wanted to make sure y'all were all invited to our party that we're having on October 20th at Weldon Village. You know, we've crossed the 300th homeowner in Weldon this year, just about a month and a half ago. And this will be our 7th annual picnic in the park that we have Sunday, October 20th from 1 to 5 in the village center. We have Camel City Yacht Club will be there providing music. We've got Gypsy Road is coming out to provide some beverages. We've got our carriage rides as usual that'll go around the neighborhood. Got some new parts of the neighborhood they'll go through this year. And we've got a really nice vendor fair set up as well. I think it's the largest one we've had yet. So last year we had about 500 and some folks come out. This year I'm expecting a little bit more because I think there are more than 2,000 people living in Weldon Village at this time, which is very exciting to think about where we started in 2013. And so just want to make sure y'all were invited. So if you have any questions, you can reach me on email or phone, or I'll be happy to answer some questions here while I'm here.
Thank you, Milt.
It's from 1 to 5 p.m. And the band usually starts about 2:45 and goes till about 4:15. And we're hoping for really, really good weather this time.
Any other questions of Milt? Thank you for
Good.
the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak to the board on an item that is not otherwise included in the agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the discussion regarding an entrance sign. Mr. Swisher?
Madam Mayor and Board, I was contacted by Milt Rhodes about an entrance sign coming into Kernersville if you're coming from High Point, traveling north. And he has offered one of the areas out front of Weldon just before you get to Bunker Hill Church. You can see the area there, the sign, if the board approves it. I mean, we've got to do some things before it's finalized, but it would be between the two big trees you see there. We would either put it there, move it up in front of the one tree. You know, we would have to go out and look and it would be in that general area, but we would definitely find a way to get it placed so that you could see it coming north. As you can tell, if you're coming north, I mean, you would be in the right-hand lane, the sign would be across the road from you, but our intent would be to angle it so that basically as you come out of the curve, you would see it without any issue, because the property on the I guess, the east side of the road, the right-hand side as you travel north. Right now, that's, we don't have anyone offering any location for a sign, and so this would work. We wanted to bring it to the board to see if the board was okay with this location before we kind of start doing some drawings and whatnot. It would require some legalese from Milt. They would have to give us an easement probably for it and make sure that we get it out of the right of way and all of that good stuff. But we think it's a good location, think it'll work, and certainly appreciate Milt and the Arden Group for offering that location to us.
All right, any discussion or questions?
Are you looking for a vote, or clearly you're going to bring us a design? With the
Well, it's what we do
as well?
is if probably get a vote tonight, either yes, we're okay with that location, move forward, or no, we don't like it, and then we wouldn't move forward. So if you said, yes, we're okay with it, we would go out and start, get into the logistics of it and make sure the sign will work so that it's visible. Then we would bring back a design. It would look much like the others that we have coming into town. But really, before we went forward and did all of that, we just wanted approval of the board that this location is one that the board's happy with.
Okay.
And I'll recognize Milt.
If it's appropriate, this area this is the southern end of Kernersville. And as far as I'm aware, there's not any new property to be annexed south of this. This is extended common area on the southern boundary of our frontage on Highway 66. We kind of long envisioned this as an entrance into the town, and with our frontage and the work that we do there, I think it would make a nice place to put a welcome to Kernersville sign of that kind of nature in this spot. Be outside the right of way. We've got a large maintained grassy area. So just after conversations with Chris in the chamber about the signage program, I suggested, hey, why don't we look at this spot and see how it works? So we'd love to work with you on details and execution and implementation, however you see fit.
Thank you. There is a lot of value to placing as you come out of a curb. I've really, maybe some of you don't drive near it as much as I do, but seeing the Chrysler building when you're going around like the Bodenhammer area, you really see it because of how the building is fronted as to that curb. So, or the curve in the road. So that is, that really could work, as far as visibility. And it would also allow it to be far enough off of the road that it wouldn't obstruct vision for people turning in and out of the driveways and the neighborhood entrance to Weldon too, by not needing to put it in the right of way.
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to add, this is a really good example. I'm sorry, is that better? Okay. This is a really good example of a development group doing something to fully embrace the sense of community that this board years ago, long before a lot of the current board members were seated, envisioned that becoming sort of an expansion node for the town. And this is a really good example, I think, of a developer doing something that they don't have to do. In fact, it's going to probably take some time and money to get it on the ground, but it's going to not only enhance that community, but enhance the town. And I think we certainly appreciate your Arden and Milt, your arranging that to happen. It's a good addition, and thank you for the generosity.
Madam Mayor, I agree with Bill, and we certainly appreciate the offer. And I'd like to move that we proceed with plans to put a sign out there.
Okay, I've got a motion by Alderman Penix. Got a second by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, Milt.
So Curtis, we'll get together on paperwork and get to work.
We appreciate Stuart, and we appreciate Stuart Parks and Arden and your involvement in this. Thank you. All right, and Lisa, thank you for your patience. We are now to your agenda item. We are at item I'm going to call it B because that's what's in front of me, but we'll renumber them when we do the minutes. So presentation by Harvest Hub, Short Street. Lisa, if you could introduce your first and last name and your business address.
Lisa McMullen, 106 Short Street, Kernersville, 27284.
Okay, can everyone hear her?
Can y'all hear me? It's the end of the night, so my voice is almost
You can move
spent
the
for day.
microphone a little closer to you.
Does that work better?
That is
There
much
we go.
better.
Oh, I can even hear myself. So great. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. Curtis, thanks for setting it up so I could come in and speak to the board. Mayor Morgan, I've not seen you in about 2.5 years, so it's good seeing you today as well. I wanted to come in this evening and introduce the board at large to Project Short Street and what we've done in the 2.5 years since we've been located just across Mountain Street on Short Street. My group, which is the Collaboratory Project, actually affectionately known as the Short Street Group now, started the project on Short Street in 2021 during the height of the pandemic. And we took the building, which used to be a water testing facility. I believe everybody's probably aware you take your water and get it tested. And we have now turned that property, all 9,000 square feet of it, into what we have positioned it to be, which is a fully integrated food hub, innovation lab, and culinary incubator. Short Street is currently home to underserved farmers, producers, food product developers, and a wide range of culinary entrepreneurs, from chefs to food trucks to meal prep planners, extensive amount of folks that have worked in our facility in the last 2 years. And we've spent the last 2 years trying to just get a handle on what we thought in theory when I saw you last, and then what the reality was, trying to support these folks in an industry where there was limited support before Short Street was developed. So I'm going to read from this just so I don't completely lose my voice and try to stay on track. So Short Street is positioned to be the Piedmont Triad's first fully integrated food hub and innovation lab, providing a lateral supply chain system empowering small and underserved farmers, food producers, and culinary entrepreneurs. Our model blends for-profit sustainability with nonprofit outreach, ensuring that our objectives continue to align with the objectives of our members, the community by providing both economic opportunities and community-driven support for local growth within our local food system. And over the last couple of years, the Piedmont Triad Regional Council has completed a Food for All study in our area. And one of the key factors that came out of that study was the lack of a food hub in our area to help support these folks. So we feel like the Short Street is doing a good job in answering the call for that type of infrastructure. Short Street was privately funded by our group, not because we could not have probably used the help in funding it, but just out of sheer need and urgency for these folks to have somewhere to work out of. We chose to do that. And over the last 2 years in our discovery phase, one of the objectives we had was to activate a 501c3 and get our designation for a nonprofit that would allow us to take advantage of local, state, and federal funding to help with our objectives there. In July, we received that designation for Harvest Hub. So this is going to help us subsidize our members' operations, expand services, and reduce the potential need for membership rate increases while delivering critical resources to farmers and food entrepreneurs at a larger scale. So our members at Short Street, they come in, they're all permitted by either the health department, the Department of Ag, the USDA, or the FDA. So our facility is certified to be able to have operations in-house for all of those different regulatory agencies. Currently, We do not have anyone running under FDA regulation, but we do have plenty of health department, lots of Department of Ag folks, and we are getting ready to launch a program specifically around USDA oversight for our operations, and this would allow our members who work with meat and poultry to be able to wholesale their products within North Carolina and across state lines. So that's very close. Probably before the end of this year, we will have USDA oversight at Short Street on a regular basis. So we're excited about that. We have actually been approached by a couple of different municipalities in North Carolina about bringing a model similar to Short Street to their area to also help support people in the culinary and food product industries. Aside from not really being ready to do that, because we still have one here that we're growing and developing, we are continuing to stay committed to Forsyth County and the Piedmont Triad, in general. There's a lot of need here, and we've not begun to even hit the tip of that need or being able to fill the needs of these folks. So, but I do think that it speaks a lot to what Short Street is and what it's being recognized as. And I think that as a community asset in Kernersville, I thought that it would be a good opportunity tonight to come and introduce y'all to the work that we've done so that, y'all too would have an understanding of what sits right across the street. So in that building, we house obviously the Short Street Kitchen, which a lot of folks are familiar with. A lot of infrastructure there, a lot of utility, along with a lot of resource and support for those folks. A lot of our members come in, they have never worked in a commercial environment, have never worked in a commercial kitchen, but they have this idea, and we help them determine over the course of our 6-month incubator program whether the idea is a hobby or if it's a viable business going forward. And many of those folks have went on to become viable businesses. And we've had several that have actually graduated out of our facility and now have either their own restaurants or have moved into a co-packing situation, which is a pretty big step coming from self-packing to co-packing. McMaster's Hog Sauce is one of the folks that produce at Short Street currently. Mo Empanadas produces there. So we've had quite a few that have been successful, I think, in our programming. Harvest Hub, obviously, is our nonprofit, our 501c3, and that is specifically for our programming, which includes the Her Kitchen initiative, specifically designed to help support women in product development. We are working currently with Pearl Milling Company, which they have a program called Pledge that specifically looks at how to support women in that particular field. They are historically underserved as product developers. So we are implementing that program at Short Street currently. Shop NC Farms, which was our first initiative ever, is a social media initiative that connects small farmers directly with consumers. We currently have 10,000 members in our group, and we represent all 100 counties. So we have farms, farmers, markets, product developers, seafood, rice, you name it. I mean, there's such an array of folks that are a part of that, and it allows them to connect directly with consumers in their area so that they can obviously have market access for their products. Last but not least, I'm going to kind of skip through this for the sake of time, but our Short Street to Success Incubator is a 6-month program with 4 different incubator tracks: catering operations, food truck operations, product development, and culinary media. And very comprehensive program. It takes them from everything from setting up their business to investment to property development. I mean, anything they're going to encounter in the course of developing and stabilizing their business, this program covers. And currently, our instructors are our senior members that have been at Short Street for the 2.5 years since we've opened. They too have been down this path, and so we try to pull from within our team to help guide these folks along as they come into the facility. And then there's our team that helps support that as well with marketing, branding, finance, business development. So we're pretty proud of that. But looking at Short Street as what it's bringing to Kernersville, I've kind of given y'all, I think, a list of this. So the reason I came tonight specifically was to initiate collaboration with the town of Kernersville. I've had a recent conversation even with Curtis about, the 2 years that since we've been open, we've kind of just kept our head down and just tried to work through the things that we did not know that we were going to encounter with opening Short Street. And now we've gotten to our community outreach and obviously with us all being neighbors directly across the street. I felt like it was probably time for at least one of our team members to come and present to the aldermen, invite you possibly to come and visit Short Street, meet our members, see what we've got going on there, see the progress, and form some type of official partnership with the town. We'd like to be recognized as a community asset. I think that with the investment that our group has put into Short Street and the amount of time and heart and effort that we have contributed to it over the last 2.5 years to make sure that it was a solid cornerstone for the community, that now's the time we would like to see that acknowledgement from the town, from the county. We had the Economic Development Council come in last week for a visit. We've had several folks come in from the USDA, from the Department of Ag, that's looking to now start utilizing Short Street more for their programming. So I think we've blossomed outside of just that, startup ourselves. So I brought some material for y'all to look at. Obviously, it's casual reading on a rainy Sunday, but I do invite all of you. Mayor Morgan has been to Short Street. She has seen it firsthand. She was there when it was still shiny and glossy. That's not the case now. And obviously Curtis is familiar with Short Street, but I would like to see any of our aldermen come by and pay us a visit, meet our members, meet the folks that are starting businesses. You'll see I know I'm running short on time, but I gave y'all kind of our 2-year report card. And you will see that currently Short Street has the largest concentration of 100 health scores in the state. And people laugh when I tell them that. I'm like, but no, that's really quite an accomplishment. So the health department finds us an asset to the community. I think that now it would be a good time for us to start getting word out, to folks in Kernersville as to exactly what it is we do there. Introduce them to the 24 food trucks that operate out of there. There's quite a few accomplishments on here that we're proud of. So anyway, I invite you all to come to Short Street anytime. My contact information is in the packet. Happy to coordinate a tour, get some of the members to feed y'all lunch. They all like to cook, obviously. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you, Lisa. All right, we are on to item C, consideration of a street closure request and downtown event request by Savage Roasters.
Madam Mayor and Board, you have in your packet the request to close the streets. Part of it will be for a 5K that will start on Cherry Street, go down, take the Greenway, go out and back on the Greenway. I think that starts at 9 a.m. And then they will have an event on Main Street there as well. I'm thinking the closing is at I always forget the name of the road. It's not all of Main Street, it's right where the Nationwide Insurance is. From there up to, I think, the railroad tracks. That will be from 7 p.m. They'll load in start loading in at 7 a.m., end at 7 p.m. The event will start at 9 with the 5K. And then they'll have the food truck festival and so forth after that. I think this is either the third or fourth year of the event. It's always been a good event, never had any trouble with it. Josh Pratt is the organizer of the event. I think last year they had about 500 folks participate in the 5K, and then had folks coming in and out through the day for the food trucks. So it's been a good event. He's been working with the police department to provide officers for that event as well. So I talked to him the other day. He has his insurance policy as well, so he'll send that to us when he gets it. But we're recommending the event. Again, never had any trouble with it. It's been a good event. The money that he raises for that goes for breast cancer research as well. So it's a good event. He has a good turnout for it.
Okay, do I have a motion? Motion for approval by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson, second by Alderman Penix. All in favor? All right, item D is relating to the Piney Grove Fire and Rescue Department. What piece of property did we purchase? I know
We
you
didn't
got the
purchase a
address.
piece. It's when we annex property that is in their fire district.
Oh, so is it Holt?
It's Holt Holt Experiential. It's what happens is we have to take the value of that piece of property as a percentage of their overall fire district tax base. If they have any debt, then we have to assume that percentage of the debt. As you can see in the memo, that works out to $1,485.49 instead of paying them $148.55 a year for the next 10 years. We're recommending going ahead and paying them in full all at once. So we're required by state law to do that once we annex a piece of property. If it's in a fire tax district, then we're required to, and they have debt, then we're required to pay them for that portion of debt.
All right, do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Got a motion by Alderman Apple,
Second.
second by Alderman Gorham. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right, item E is the consideration of a request for proposals, or RFP, for a consultant for development of a new comprehensive land use plan.
I'll let
Ms.
Ms.
Garner?
Garner cover this one.
Madam Mayor, the Planning Department would like to solicit proposals for a new comprehensive land use plan that would encompass probably the next 15 years of town growth, anticipating that and planning for that. We would like to hire a consultant that will do an extensive public outreach campaign associated with that. We think that's going to be really important because we know that there are lots of thoughts and feelings about Kernersville's future and the growth from all sides. So we looked at several other RFPs that other communities have done and pulled pieces that we liked and submitted it for review from finance, from HR, and then from Curtis. And so we would like your blessing to be able to advertise for this so that we can get started.
Okay. So I guess the blessing is best in form of a motion.
Correct.
Okay. Do I have a motion to,
We put out an RFP
to what?
to put out a request for proposals
Okay.
for a consultant for development of a land use plan.
A motion to
have
put
a
out an
question.
RFP.
I have a question.
Yes,
before we vote,
Mr.
if you
Barrow.
don't mind, for Catherine. What does something like this cost?
It depends on who you get and how fancy you want it and all sorts of things. We have put a dollar amount in the proposal, and it is less than what Curtis and I have discussed in anticipation of potential cost overruns, so that hopefully we don't have to come back and ask for more money. But with a lot of public outreach through social media and events and things like that, they tend to get pricey.
why do we need a new land use plan?
It's required by the state if we have zoning. So to keep zoning, we need a new plan, and the plan that we have was last done comprehensively in 2014. And Kernersville is definitely not the same now as it was in 2014.
That's true. Okay. I just wondered because you can't annex land anymore. The only land you can take in is when some developer comes in with a bunch of land and wants you to do something.
Correct.
So I wondered why you'd need a new plan.
Well, in some of it, Alderman Barrow, it's our land use plan currently. Boards through the years since 2014 have approved projects that really didn't go with the land use plan that was in effect at the time. So we've got a land use plan that says one thing and we're seeing development on the ground that kind of says another. So this land use plan would take into account what's been approved and what that area now looks like. And also some of the, as you just mentioned, some of the new areas, you know, south of town. You all just approved a rezoning several months ago for Caleb's Creek. It's a little bit different than what that land use plan shows. So it will take into account the areas around there that may come in the future, asked to be annexed into town. But the big thing, it'll pick up those areas that really were developed and approved that didn't follow the land use plan also.
I think it'll also really be key with redevelopment, because we've seen that occurring on South Main as well with the bank that was demolished to be the tire center, and then the stuff that was going on across the street with the other tire center. And then so we're seeing a lot of redevelopment. So it's going to govern what does redevelopment look like for us and what are the different opportunities associated with that. And then it's going to clean up some of the areas that have been changed through individual land use plan amendments. And then also we're hoping it will set us up to do small area plans in the future for some of these nodes around town that really need a concentrated focus.
Good deal. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I have a question for Catherine, I guess. About a month ago, we did some piecemeal revisions to some language that I guess was within the land use plan. How does this dovetail with what we've done to try to sort of just update it versus doing a wholesale revision?
So the land use plan, the short version of how I describe it is the land use plan says what we want to be when we grow up. And the UDO is our step-by-step plan of how we're going to get there. So we've done some text amendments to ordinance language, and those text amendments are intended to comply with state law, but also to make sure that we are getting to the vision that the land use plan sets forth. So tonight with the parking text amendment, we talked about some of the visions of the land use plan in terms of having a small town atmosphere and a walkable community. And then the changes to the parking, the regulations of development is intended to further that goal of the land use plan.
So the revision to the land use plan is a broader
Yes.
umbrella over
Yes.
what we did a month or so ago.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Are we completely through with the revisions that we did a month or so ago, or was that a preliminary?
We are always tweaking the UDO as it's needed, but I would imagine, well, most communities that I've seen that do a comprehensive land use plan update, then go back and do a comprehensive UDO rewrite to make sure that the UDO is in tune with the land use plan. What we did with land use plan earlier in the year, back in April, was we got the existing zoning ordinance, the Unified Development Ordinance, into a more workable flow. We put like items together. We reorganized it so that it was a little more clear and user-friendly in anticipation of then, after a comprehensive plan, rewriting the UDO to match what the vision is decided to be with the land use plan.
So there's more to come.
Lots more to come.
Okay.
It's exciting times.
Thank you.
All right, any more questions or discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'm motion to approve moving forward with an RFP for consultant for development of a new comprehensive land use plan.
Keith, could you hear that?
No, actually, I couldn't.
Chris, could you hold your microphone a little closer? That was
Sure.
perfect if you can restate it, if you can say it exactly what you said before again.
I motion to approve item E for an RFP for a consultant for development of a new comprehensive land use plan.
Perfect. All right, got a motion?
Thank you.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson, got a second by Alderman Barrow. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right, item F, consideration of corrected version of ordinance 2024-41. And also item G, consideration of corrected version of ordinance 2024-42. Mr. Swisher?
Yeah, the 2024-41 was the case, Greenwood and Charles on South Main Street. There was just a small piece of that that somehow didn't get included in the zoning, but we feel sure it was intended. I think it was on the map, but wasn't actually in the meets and bounds description. So we need to correct that so that piece is included in that. It was just a very small piece, and like I say, it was on the map, but it wasn't in the meets and bounds, I believe is what it was.
Okay, do we need further information on that, or do I have a motion to correct the ordinance?
I make a motion to correct the ordinance.
Okay, got a motion by Alderman Penix.
Second.
Second by Alderman Gorham. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right, the second one, Mr.
Yeah,
Swisher?
item G is the property, is that the Sunlight Baptist Church?
Should be.
Yeah, on Highway 66. It had a typo listing the PIN number. There was a typo in that, so we just need to correct the PIN number.
Okay. Do I have a motion for the correction?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I've got two motions at the same time, so I'll say the motion was by Alderman Gorham, the second was by Alderman Apple. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right, we've already discussed the entrance signs. That takes us to the consent agenda. Usually the consent agenda has no discussion, but as I introduce the items, I'll briefly state. Item A is, it has been our policy to go ahead and put a placeholder in the minutes if we don't have a meeting. We started that really during the pandemic when some of the meetings had to be canceled by things that were going on statewide. But that allows us in the future to, if we're searching for the minutes for that meeting, to know that we found them and they weren't like lost to time somehow. So that confirms that we didn't have a meeting that day at the normal time that we had planned to have one. Any agenda items for that meeting were combined with another meeting, so that's why we didn't need to have that meeting. Also, item B, that's our standard minutes for an open session meeting. And C, the 2025 Board of Aldermen meeting schedule, we wanted to get that published sooner this year for everybody's planning purposes. And I did send it out to the aldermen in advance and the department heads, and everybody agreed that that appeared to be a schedule that worked. It's generally following our practice of Wednesday and Tuesday nights. There's been some shifts depending on what was going on those days that may be conflicts for everybody. So we've put the August meeting back to Tuesday night instead of Wednesday because we are going to continue to plan to do our National Night Out celebration on the Friday night. That worked really well this past year, so we're going to continue that. All right, so we've got the consent agenda. There will be no separate discussion unless somebody requests. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to have any of these items A, B, or C removed for separate vote and discussion? Seeing any aldermen? All right, therefore, could I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Got a motion by Alderman Gorham, second by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right, we are to the town manager's report.
Madam Mayor, I have two quick items. One of those goes back to last month. I think Alderman Barrow asked some questions about the franchise fee for Duke Energy when we were discussing moving the poles. So I've looked into that a little bit. We don't really have a franchise fee. There is a franchise tax. And basically is what it is it started back in 2014. The general sales tax rate is applied to the sale of electricity. And then we get money from that sales tax. Two different distribution methods. One of those, we receive a franchise tax share, so kind of a franchise fee. And then we also receive an ad valorem share of those proceeds based on our ad valorem tax. So in 2023, we received right at $1.8 million in franchise tax, and that is from Duke Energy and Piedmont Natural Gas. Both of those fall under that. 2024, fiscal year 23-24, we received right at $2 million, and I think this year we budgeted about $2.3 million. So we do receive money from that. And again, that's for the utility, Duke Energy as well as Energy United. We have a few citizens in town that are on Energy United, and then we also receive Piedmont Natural Gas. So there's really not a franchise fee. If it were, we would not be able to change that. That would be set by the Secretary of State's office, just kind of like cable franchise and things like that. I did talk to, I did talk to Jimmy Flythe. He said he would be glad to meet with a couple of members of the board, keep it to two, so that way it's not a meeting of the board. He said he'd be glad to meet with a couple of members of the board. He did email and say that that's probably going to be sometime down the road, maybe a month or so. He said he would contact me back in the next couple of weeks, give me an idea. As you can imagine, he's pretty busy with his municipalities up in the western part of the state, as well as the engineers. For Duke Energy, I think they probably have all of them in the western part of the state right now. But he said he would email me back and let me know, so I'll get with the board members when I hear back from him with some available dates and let you all know and then set something up. But he said he'd be glad to. I'll be glad to answer any of the questions that you had and kind of give you an idea of where we are with that.
Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it.
I talked with Jimmy Flythe as well about it.
So,
and I talked with him too about your idea of kind of defining what we're looking for in advance. And all of the ideas that we discussed at the last meeting, I shared with him, or the last Board of Aldermen meeting, that everyone, if you're like, what meeting was that? It's the one you can watch on YouTube. Go back in time and watch it. But I've kind of brought him up to date on what we had talked about following his conversation with Curtis and before this email he just sent Curtis. So
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Another item, I think the board voted a couple months ago to allow the house on Union Cross Road as part of the property that the town purchased from Andrew Coney. It's a little white house that sits kind of behind the new Parks and Rec Event Center. Allow that to be moved. We had a gentleman that wanted to move it. I don't believe he's going to move that house. He told me that he's been told that he's got to remove the roof from the house to move it. And it's just cost prohibitive. He's looking at more than really what the house will be worth, even if it withstands the move. So we would like the board to go ahead and give us authority and permission to tear that house down. We have, if you haven't been down Beeson Road lately, we have torn the house down. I think it's 674 Beeson Road or whatever. That one is gone. We would like permission to go ahead and tear the one down there on Union Cross Road, as well as the one behind the one on Beeson Road, the one we just purchased in foreclosure. We've got the equipment there. We have the containers to go ahead and dispose of the materials and everything. So if the board would go ahead and give that authority, we'll start moving on that as soon as our folks from Parks and Rec get back and can get on it. It's a little bit wet to do it right now, but we'll get it just as soon as we can.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
I move we do that.
Okay. Got a motion by Bill Apple, second Second by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson. All in favor? It's unanimous.
And one last thing, just give you an update. I know I emailed you yesterday about some of the crews that we're sending out. I think we finalized, the police department is sending 5 or 6 individuals, probably be 6. I think Chief Tilley's going as well. On Thursday to Asheville. They will be there for about a week. They will then come back. We think we will probably send another group to Maggie Valley after that. Fire Rescue, Chief Aldermen is sending an engine company up to Maggie Valley. Are they leaving Wednesday or Thursday? They're there today. So they went up today. We're taking supplies up. Parks and Recreation, Fire Department, Police Department's been getting supplies. We'll probably take those up on Thursday. Parks and Rec is taking up, I think, 2 trailers or 3 trailers. I haven't talked to Will or Ernie today to see how many they're going up with. I know I think they've got 2 at least. Dorn has been in contact. He was actually in the western part of the state today. He went up to Boone, Morganton, back down to Lenore and Bakersville, if he could get to them, to see which one of those communities needed help. We've got a group from Public Services that are willing to go. We'll send the equipment that we can send. As I told you all, we'll probably send a backhoe, a skid steer, a couple dump trucks, and one of our boom trucks. If we can send those up. The problem they have right now is for us to come up and remove trees. The problem is the trees are entangled in power lines. So we can't go move those trees until the power is cut off to the power lines. So as soon as that happens, we'll send some folks up from Public Services as well to start helping those folks out. We intend on, we're collecting supplies at Fire Station 42 and also here at Town Hall. Once we get a trailer full of those, we'll schedule something with the folks in that part of the state to bring in another load of supplies and drop off. So, we're anticipating it's probably going to be a long process. They've definitely got a long road ahead of them. And so we will be sending folks up as we can. We've got our busy time of the season coming up for our folks in Public Services. So we'll see how that works. And as long as we can get firemen and policemen and keep the folks here as well that we need here on duty, we'll send up the folks that we can. And that's all I have.
And then to follow up on that, the town has posted, thank you, Chief Alderman, for you and your staff compiling some of that information on the town's social media, some ways you can help. And also if you could also call the town clerk, Keith Hooker, or deputy clerk, Beth Price, for that information if you don't have the social media access. So I attended a statewide meeting that the league had this morning for elected officials with North Carolina Emergency Management, and it is exactly what Curtis said, just a lot of people working together, but in a strategic way, because you have to get the power lines out of the tree before the trees can be removed. So it will be days, weeks, and longer for some of this infrastructure to be restored. But there's information to help in that regard too for businesses and that sort of thing. So feel free to get in touch with us if you're a business interested in helping and need more information. All right, what else do we have to do? Let's see, anything further, Curtis? All right. Matters to be presented by our town attorney, Ed Powell.
Madam Mayor, I do not have any report tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, matters to be presented by the mayor and board of aldermen. We'll start with Mr. Thompson.
I've got 2 things to ask.
If you can bring your mic a little closer.
All right.
Thank you.
I've got a question for Curtis. During COVID, we put I don't know if it was an ordinance, what we put in place to try to benefit the downtown owners and their restaurants and bars so people could actually come out on their sidewalk with alcohol or what have you. I guess the first question is, is that still in place, or did we get rid of that? And on a follow-up on that, I guess the reason I'm wondering is because I know there's been a lot of chatter. I know you and I have talked about it, several board members have talked about it, the chatter about creating a social district downtown to benefit people that are coming into town, but also the businesses that are in town that would, of course, benefit, and people can walk around similarly to what they have in Winston and Greensboro and other municipalities. So I guess I'm trying to figure out if any of those could play together, or is that going to have to be something totally new? Does that make sense?
To answer your first question, you're correct. We did put into effect an ordinance that allowed them to have alcohol out on the public rights of way, basically in front of their business, or if there was town public right of way next to them, like an alley. So basically, Follies could go into the alley beside of them, and then I think it allowed them to be on the sidewalk. That ordinance was made permanent, a version of that. I think the board passed it after COVID. After that went, after it was no longer in effect through COVID, after it terminated and expired, the board came in and made that ordinance permanent. So it is now an ordinance that you can have it. We don't have, as you mentioned, a social district. The way the social district's, my understanding, in the other communities, the way the social district works is they take a stretch of downtown or wherever it may be, whether it be a neighborhood or downtown or whatever, and say, between point A, point B, they put boundaries on it, much like we did tonight with the parking. And they say in this area, you're allowed to have alcohol basically anywhere in that area out in the public. I think it's what it does allow is it allows it, if you're not a bar, if you're not a brewery, by our ordinance right now, they can't take it down the sidewalk, say Little Brothers Brewing. They can't go down the sidewalk with it. They have to stay right out in front of there. So the social district would basically allow them to take it and walk down the sidewalk from Little Brothers Brewing to Follies, or go across the street from Little Brothers over to Social Habit. If Blue Rock Pizza's coming into the old factory, it would allow them, they will most likely serve alcohol. It would allow them to take that alcohol if they wanted to go from Blue Rock Pizza up to Social Habit. That's kind of the way I've been told that a social district works. We don't have anything like that. If the board wishes to pursue that, it's been brought up a couple times. I think what we have now is not been an issue, I don't think, really from the standpoint of having a lot of folks out on the sidewalk kind of stumbling around and so forth. So it's kind of been a good test run with it, what we've had now. So if the board wishes to pursue that, much like we did with the parking ordinance, we can put something together, bring it back to you all to see, and see if that kind of gets to where you are looking at going. And put it into place, and it's like everything else, just like the parking ordinance. If it doesn't work, you can come back and change it.
Okay, thank you.
So if there's, to follow up with Chris's question, if there's a food truck in front of, say, the Follies, people can walk outside holding their beverage.
Yes, ma'am.
Stand in line of that food truck.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. And they can be in the alleyway that the town owns beside Follies as well.
Have you heard in the chatter, where people envision the social district to start and end?
Just basically the downtown area, just basically what Curtis was saying, is setting up a boundary, whether it be from Railroad Street to, I don't know, just West Mountain. I'm just throwing out, it's like a boundary area. It's like a certain area. Like Greensboro, there's certain streets you can be on, certain sidewalks you can be on in Greensboro, and I think it's the same way in certain areas in Winston, just whether it's a radius or however you look at that.
Yeah, I think Greensboro, they picked it up when they got the new, I can't remember the name of it, the new park downtown right by Tanger.
LeBauer Park.
LeBauer, they've got that area, and then they've got another area kind of up, maybe Elm Street and around to where they have that. And in Winston-Salem, I think it is on 4th Street maybe, but I'm not sure. But they've got it, if you did it here, we could look at it, but just thinking kind of off the top of my head, you probably want to start it north of Harmon Park so that you don't have them going as far down as Harmon Park, because really south of Harmon Park, there's nowhere that you would really serve alcohol on a regular basis. You could have it north of Harmon Park to the railroad track or wherever.
I think it's coming. I think it would be beneficial to start looking into it, at least so we
Okay.
can prepare for.
Yeah, we'll take a look into it, and we'll see what the other folks have done, kind of like we did with the parking, see what they've done with their ordinance and kind of make some changes to it, and we'll get something you ought to look at, just to see if it's something, kind of in the realm of what you're thinking.
Can we include in that a survey of towns similar to ours? Madison is one that I understand enacted it early on. One of the property owners of a number of downtown properties over there I know pretty well. Barry Dodson is a CPA over there with Dodson, Shelton, and Nelson. He owns a lot of the downtown properties, and I'm curious as to whether they consider it to have been a success. Are there any stumbling blocks? Are there any reasons not to do it?
Yeah.
If they had to do it over again.
I didn't know they had that in Madison. So
Well, I was told that recently. I'm not sure, and I haven't had time to call him and ask him, but
Okay. Yeah, we'll look into it and see.
I'd like to know their experience with it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Curtis. That's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Barrow.
Just to follow up on what Chris and Curtis were talking about, I had met with a group downtown at Breeze Lounge, and we talked about that. I think I said something to you about it. And they were interested in doing that, and about the same geography that you were talking about. The other thing I'd like to add is we still got to get our group together on the pool deal.
Okay.
Right? So we can get moving on that, figure out exactly where we're going to put it in Pope Park, get Scott in the group and get moving on that.
Okay.
And also, I noticed that they're putting the sidewalks in down West Mountain Street in front of the battery plant there, John Deere.
Very
They
good.
have to do those. They have to,
Yeah.
right, Dad?
Very good.
Have they got it in? I saw they had graded it out and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Have they poured it already?
No, they hadn't poured it,
Okay.
but they're working at it.
That's good.
Looks like it's gonna be pretty neat down there. That's all I got. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. Mr. Apple.
No, ma'am, I really don't have anything other than what we've already talked about. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Mr. Gorham. Mr. Penix.
No, just one thing. I just wanted to say how proud I am of the town of Kernersville. Our department heads and our police chief and our fire chief, our town manager, our mayor, and so many individuals with the town of Kernersville for offering their help to the people in western North Carolina. That's the most tragic thing I've seen in my lifetime. And I remember Hurricane Hazel in 1954, it didn't even compare to the destruction and the death that western North Carolina's going through. And I'm proud of the town of Kernersville for taking the compassion and initiative to move forward and help those people. It's going to take them decades to get any form of normalcy back up in that area. So just pray for them. That's all we can do.
Thank you, Mr. Penix. Is there any further business before the board this evening? All right. If not, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson. I hear seconds all over the place. We'll go with Alderman Barrow. It's unanimous. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you for joining us tonight. This meeting is now adjourned.